Royals finished off their series with the Seattle Mariners. They lose 2 of 3. Tough series, but I think there's still some good things to take away in a few different spots. We'll spotlight those players here on a live edition of One Royal Way. We're back at it here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We are live on YouTube, as always, on a Thursday night at 8:30. Make sure to like, rate, subscribe, review on all platforms. Hit those notification bells so you know when these episodes go up. If you are on YouTube watching this live or after the fact, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you've not already, tell your friends to hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers as quick as we can. We're close to 900. I don't want to be staring at 900 plus before we get to the, the bulk of the off season. And we got 100 subscribers to get to. Hopefully, by the beginning of next season, we can get there. The team kind of falling out of contention really drove some of that home, but we have some fun stuff planned for when we get to that 1,000 subscriber mark, whenever that may be. So let's try and get there as fast as we can. I do appreciate it. This show, as always, brought to you by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our partners in Possible here at Kansas City Sports Network. Can't thank them enough for their support over the last couple of seasons. And be sure to check out Kansas City Strength and Conditioning. If you have a baseball or softball player in the area looking for a place to train during or while, fall ball, or if they're not playing fall ball but just want to get some stuff done, that is the place to do it in the area. So be sure to go check them out. So as I mentioned off the top, Royals lose 2 of 3. They kind of get smacked around a little bit on Monday or on the Tuesday game. Michael Wacha, is his first start off the concussion list. It didn't go well. He got hit around quite a bit. Cal Raleigh hits 2 home runs. Dom Canzone hits 3 homers. In that game, Cal Raleigh set the record for most home runs by a switch hitter and tied the Mariners franchise record with Ken Griffey Jr. for most home runs in a single season. So, obviously he's an MVP candidate, either going to win it or be runner-up. So he's been unbelievable. Tough game overall there. They jumped you. It is what it is. That team came in just rip-roaring hot. They'd won 10 in a row. Or that was the game that got them to win 10 in a row. So, they're playing really good baseball. You win in kind of dramatic fashion on Wednesday, 4-run 8th inning, gets it done. We'll talk about that extensively here in a little bit because I was at the game. A lot to take away from that, both on the field and some fun stuff that I was able to get post-game. Had some fun conversations, some anecdotal stories I'll talk about from that. And then today you lose 2-0 in a pretty poor offensive performance. But you got to get outing out of Stephen Kolek. So we'll hit on all of those things. Let's jump back to Monday. And look, the season is what it is at this point. And so breaking down full games at this point, to me, I don't see the point in it because even though they are not mathematically out of it, for all intents and purposes, they are. They'd have to win out and some crazy stuff would have to happen. And baseball is a crazy sport, but it's a very, very, very low percentage chance. So I'm just going to kind of focus on the things that I want to see, give a little bit of positive momentum to end this season, because I do think it's still important that they finish strong here, try and finish at 500 or above, get themselves, a little something going into 2026. And one of these positives that I've taken away from these last few weeks has been watching Carter Jensen play. The kid is really impressive. And I know I call him a kid, he's 22, but a rookie breaking in, kind of, had to grind it his way through, a level a year, repeated low A, repeated high A, and then just started tearing the cover off the ball this year and had a truly a breakout season in 2025, which ultimately led to him making his big league debut, and a well-deserved one. But he's got some tools that make you believe he is part of this core now. Not in the future, but now he has put himself in that position to be in there with Bobby and Michael and Vinny. If you want to throw Jack in there as well. Like that group is going to be a part of this thing for the next half decade or, potentially longer than that. And what is so impressive about Carter, and just I'll give you the raw numbers and kind of go from there. he's currently slashing, and again, we're dealing in small sample sizes here, so take that with a grain of salt. He's slashing 320, 452, 640, 197 weighted runs created plus. He's striking out nearly as much as he's walking. 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, and those 2 home runs came on Monday. First 2 home runs of his big league career, 1 to left field, 1 to right field, both on a line. And he hit a double in that game as well that was shot into the gap at a pretty high exit velocity as well. I think he's looked good behind the plate. He's gotten the chance to start a couple of games now behind the plate, and I think he's looked pretty impressive. That is the one thing that people were kind of worried about. Not worried about, but I guess we're thinking about when he was in lower minors was the defense was not as far along as the bat and kind of a bat first catcher. But as he has leveled up through the minors, that has improved by all reports I've seen, that he can handle being a big league catcher and handle everything behind the plate. He doesn't need to change positions. So that puts him in that conversation to be the near everyday catcher next year, if nothing else, like a true timeshare with Salvi behind the plate in 2026. On the offensive side, his approach is so polished for a 22-year-old and for a young guy breaking into the league. His knowledge of the strike zone is so incredibly advanced and impressive. It is the antithesis of what we saw from Jack Caglione when he came up. And this is not me trying to have some referendum on Jack Caglione, but we knew what Jack was. Crazy high ceiling, immense power. The bat to ball is good, but the approach really needs to be worked on. And what we know about Carter was the approach is there. It's just a matter of being more aggressive and hitting more homers, trying to get into that power a little bit more. And we've seen that this season. That was one of the points of emphasis for him. And he talked about that before the season with Danny Rogers. Like, I need to take more chances. I need to be more aggressive hitting in the strike zone. And since he's come to the big leagues, he's done that. He works counts incredibly well. He spits on pitches on the corner that I'm like, man, that's not even a take that I think Bobby would make. And it buys him so many pitches. And this is, I think, lessons that Jack can learn from a guy of a similar age and a similar, prospect pedigree, at least, in the past couple of seasons. That taking those pitches and working counts and seeing that many, that's what buys you those fastballs in the zone. And then you go and hammer those mistakes. And that's what he's done. And then when he is, a guy thinks he can kind of lay one in there because he's going to be patient, like Matt Brash did in the 8th inning on Wednesday, lays in a first pitch slider, and Carter decides, I'm going to be aggressive here, shoots it up the middle. You get a big insurance run after the Adam Frazier homer. This is firmly from he's getting a cup of coffee. Let's see what he needs to work on to. You can write him into the opening day roster, opening day lineup in 2026 in Sharpie. I've been so incredibly impressed by him, and I didn't really know what to expect because, as I've talked about many a time, you can turn into a drinking game on this show if you wanted to, about the delta between AAA and major leagues when it comes to pitching and the talent and skill of pitchers. And we watch Jack tear it up in AAA and then looks like a shell of himself sometimes in the majors. We watch John Rave earn an opportunity and was not the same guy. Nick Lofton, similarly. MJ Melendez was lost in the major leagues, and then he's had a solid couple of months in AAA. Like, it's just the way it's been. And he was so good when he got to AAA, far better than he was in AA. I wanted to take a step back and go, hey, I don't know what Carter's going to do, but maybe there's something there. And the approach is going to give it a pretty high floor. He's got some of the most underrated raw power in minor league baseball. He's been able to put that on display. We're seeing that come through now. The ceiling is, I think, a lot higher than I anticipated. And this kid has the chance to be really special and be a major key and part of this core and not just, one of Bobby's running mates. I do think there is levels that he can reach that are pretty special. And to do it as a hometown kid, to do it as someone that grew up going to these games and watching this team, and now he's a part of it playing alongside his idol. It's incredibly impressive. And for him to be able to take all that in, play some of these competitive games, be a part of it, is a testament to his work and a testament to the Royals for believing that he could actually, be a part of this and be a part of, an attempt to make a sprint to the finish. And now we know Carter's going to be here and he's going to be a part of this for a long time. It's just a matter of what else are they going to be able to surround this lineup with. But he certainly adds more ceiling to this lineup in an approach that is kind of the antithesis of some of these guys that are some of these homegrown guys that we've seen come up. It's something that this lineup is needed sorely, and maybe it's able to rub off on some of these guys, and we see more Carter Jensen-like plate appearances from other players on this team. They're able to take from what he's able to do and showcase some of that. I've loved what I've seen from him. He's a really impressive kid. When he talks to the media, he is very well polished there too. Just a really, really impressive guy. And I'm excited to see what he does to finish out these last couple of weeks, but also what he can bring in 2026, because I do think he can do some really special things. We're going to take a quick break, come back, talk about Cole Ragans' outing, more from the game on Wednesday, and then Stephen Kolek on Thursday. We'll do that right after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
What's up, guys? I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network, and I'm here to talk to Kansas City businesses. If you rely on technology, you need an IT support team that's not just another vendor, but a true IT partner. That's why I want to introduce you to my friend and neighbor, KJ Miller. He is a VCIO at ThrottleNet, the Midwest's highest rated and most reviewed IT support company. They've been in business for more than 25 years, helping companies stay secure, productive, and ahead of the curve. They aren't just IT support, but they provide data security, IT strategy, and cloud software services. They do it all, and their reviews show they do it better than anyone else. So if you want to hear about how ThrottleNet can help your local business, join the conversation with myself, KJ Miller from ThrottleNet, and our resident genius from KC Sports Network when it comes to IT, at least as he's affectionately known by us, Mr. Craig Stout. Click the link in the description to hear how ThrottleNet can help you.
What's up, everybody? Benny Heiss with KCSN, betting analyst for Kansas City Sports Network. And Missouri, get ready. The wait is almost over because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming soon to the Show Me State. And guess what? You can get started today because new Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets once DraftKings Sportsbook launches on December 1st. You can download it now, place a $5 bet once they are live. Guys, DK Sportsbook brings everything you need to really elevate your game day. You got live in-game betting, super fast payouts, endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when they are live in Missouri, you're going to be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions. It is safe, secure, fast money withdrawals. That's the place you want to play. So here's what you do. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code KCSN to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when DraftKings Sportsbook goes live on December 1st. That is code KCSN in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Remember, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. You must be 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after they're issued. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms are available at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, everybody. I do appreciate those that are hanging out here live on YouTube, or if you're listening to this after the fact, thank you as well. Be sure to hit like, rate, subscribe, review on all platforms, audio, video, whatever, however you consume this. Calling all Chiefs fans, you could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pregame coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is a proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. Among other things from the game on Wednesday, the biggest story was Cole Ragans making his first start since June 5th, when I think it was against St. Louis, and he had gone on the injured list, rehabbed, came back, and then had the one start, and then that was it. And I know that there was some conversation online regarding why are they bringing him back? It's basically a fool's errand. They're not going to make the playoffs. Why risk injury? All of those things. He had been ramping up for this point, regardless of whether they were going to be in contention or not. The fact that they were at least mathematically in it probably made it a little bit easier for them to decide, hey, let's give this a run. And because everything came back clean, everything had been kind of clean bill of health to this point. The rehab assignments went well. The rehab, prior to all of that had gone well. So you're better off letting him continue to ramp up, get legitimate game action. Maybe it's going to be 2 or 3 starts, nothing probably beyond 70, 80 pitches, but at least it's regular 5-game rest. And then he can shut down for a little bit and then have a normal off season rather than, hey, let's just shut down now and then ramp back up into spring training. That could actually cause further injury too by just going, hey, we're just not going to throw. And because he had already passed all those steps, everything had gone well. It's better for him to just go out there and throw, both physically and mentally, rather than just, hey, look, we're out of it, just shut down and go. Like that can cause more harm than good. So getting Cole back out there, even if it's in a limited capacity, we see how good Cole Ragans can be. And Matt Cotrero talked about that before the game. We got a little video of what he had to say about what it means to have Cole Ragans back.
Well, the expectations, first of all, I'm excited to see him back out there. I mean, we're penciling him in for 30-plus starts, and obviously that didn't work out this year. So to get him back out there, I think that's a huge boost for us, a huge boost for himself, to know that he worked so hard to get back. Expectations are to see him compete at a high level. I mean, we still think he's got great stuff. He's worked his way back. He's tested himself on his rehab assignment. So, hopefully he goes out there and goes 12 up, 12 down, or however many hitters he gets to face, and we can say, all right, let's go get him again in 5 days.
And I thought obviously that first inning he came out and he looked incredibly impressive. That first inning, he had the adrenaline going, and it was 97, 98. He threw 11 pitches in that first inning. 10 were strikes, 9 fastballs, or I think it was 10 fastballs, 1 slider, and he got 9 whiffs in that inning, 8 on the fastball, 1 on the slider. Struck out Randy Arozarena, blew his doors off, got Cal to chase a slider down, and then blew Julio Rodriguez doors off. I would just, here it is, hit it fastballs. And that's one thing that this rotation has missed since he went down, since Bubic went down, is the ability to miss bats in the zone with a fastball. Seth Lugo is not necessarily that guy. He's got to get you to chase outside the zone. Michael Walker has got to use the changeup and the breaking ball to get the fastball to really play. But really, it's using the fastball sinker to set up the changeup to get the swings and miss. Berger, it's mostly the slider and sweeper that gets a lot of his whiffs. Michael Lorenzen, it's the changeup. But when Ragans is in the zone with his fastball, he misses bats because it is a beautiful metric pitch. And by that, I mean he spins it well. It's at the top of the zone. It holds its plane. And when he is on and when he's dialed in like he was in that first inning, that's the Cole Ragans that we've seen. A little bit of a hiccup in that second inning. He walks Polanco, Eugenio Suarez, hits a fastball home run off of it was up and away, but it was still like he missed location a little bit. He wanted to get that in a little more, hung out over the plate, and Gino's one of the best power hitters in the league. He gets through 3 2/3. I thought it went really well for what they needed from him. They went about 60 pitches. The plan originally was for Michael Lorenzen to piggyback. They had to change that plan. But I mean, it was this high level of a Cole Ragans start that we've seen in quite a while. And we saw some of the, obviously some good and some bad, but also he had to work around some traffic. He dealt with some walks. He dealt with some contact. And it's like, hey, this is kind of getting back into the swing of things at the big league level. And I think he handled everything about as well as he could in a 62 pitch sample. I'm curious what he does when he goes out to his next start, which will be in Anaheim. And then he should get one more in Sacramento to end the season. I think that might actually be the last game of the year if my math is correct. So we'll still get a couple more outings from Cole Ragans, but early returns, really good to see. And clean, if you clean bill of health, then we can go into 2026. He's going to be the opening day guy. We're going to go from there. Got some post-game sound for you from Matt Quatrero, Cole himself, and then Salvador Perez talking about Cole's outing.
So just listen to, what our training staff has to say and, follow them, do what I can to, try to get a little bit healthier each day. And, when it was time for me to come back, I'll be back. So just tried not to rush it and, cheer these guys on as much as I could. And to be back now with these guys, it's fun. I love competing with these guys, being on the field with these guys, and trying to help this team win.
Cole Ragans' first inning was like 7s and 8s on the board here. Just what do you think of his just performance in that frame?
He was feeling it. I mean, he was excited to be back out there. I mean, that was a great sign that he felt that good. He's got extra adrenaline going that inning too. It's been a couple months since he's out there, and the fact that he was getting those swings, why not stay with it?
How great was it to see Cole back out there on the mound today and just what he did?
Pretty good. It was good in the first inning. I just laughed when we played with him after the game. He did good. His father was there. He showed that before. Not to compete, and doing pretty good. He was trying hard, called a change, a cooler, slide, everything was good.
High watermarks all around from, his teammates. I'm sure they were glad to see him back out there. He's been their win day guy for, a year and a half, in 23, 24, and at the beginning of 25. And then, the injuries kind of derailed the season, but glad to see him back out there. He's going to get a couple more starts, kind of get into the swing of things, and then he's able to go into a normal off season. So a lot of good stuff from there. And that game was wild. Salvi hits a 3-run home run early in that game. Not really able to get much going outside of that. Bryce Miller worked out of danger. Gabe Spire worked a 4-pitch inning against 2-3-4 in the lineup, which was rough. They give up the lead. J.P. Crawford hits a home run off a hanging slider for Lucas Erceg. And then that 8th inning was awesome. And that was like vintage. That was like 2014-15 Royals, but also 2024 Royals. So just that never down. They're gonna find a way. And they did. Salvi took a walk against Brash. And that started the inning. Adam Frazier just keeps one inside the line. Double by Cags. Carter Jensen singles. Bobby gets a hustle double, and you end up winning the game 7-5. And like I said, even though the math is what it is, those guys are obviously not going to quit. They're going to fight till the end. That's the nature and kind of culture that this team has. And to see them go and get a win against a team that had been rip-roaring hot and do it off of one of their best relievers too in Brash was incredibly impressive and a real fun game. A couple stories from that game that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things, but this I had a really cool moment before the game where as I've talked about on this show, I have affinity for the Mariners, and it really stems from living in Washington State for about 6 years of my childhood, and a couple different stints, a couple 3-year stints. One when I was like really, really young, 3, 4, 5 years old, and then like 9, 10, 11, that age. And so my like early formative years, that first year was like 1998 to 2002. I'm 3, 4, 5 years old, getting into baseball, right? That's when that obsessive gene kind of hit for me with the game. And so much of my childhood was spent watching the Mariners at that time. And obviously that 01 team, the 116 games. Like, that's why I fell in love with the game. But so much of that time I spent listening to games on the radio, or I would watch the game and have the radio broadcast on. And Rick Riz he's been the radio guy for the Mariners since like the mid 80s. He's been calling baseball games in the majors for 40 some odd years. And that's like, he's always been kind of synonymous with baseball for me, and one of my like childhood idols, listening to him call games. And, it's just someone that I've always kind of looked up to in baseball. And I've never had the chance to meet him, obviously. Well, I'm at the game last night, and we had just finished talking to Q in the dugout pregame. And I turn around, I go up to the top of the dugout to watch some BP, and there's Rick Riz standing right there talking to Ryan Lefebvre. And I'm like, oh. A little starstruck, and I know, you would think it wouldn't be that big deal for someone like me. It was wild. And I was incredibly nervous, but once they got done talking, I went up to him and I told him, how much he's meant to me in the game of baseball, in my life, in those early years of me, watching the game. He's part of the reason why I love baseball, was just the way he called games, and he's so good at his job. And he tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Joel, you made my day. Thank you so much for telling me that." And we had a good 8 to 10 minute conversation on the field. And one of the cooler moments that I've had in my life, frankly. Like, obviously, like, you get married, your kids are born. There's nothing that's going to top those things. But this is kind of in that category of one of the things I will always remember is the time I got to talk to Rick Riz on the field at the game. Very cool. I sat next to Jeff Passan at the game in the press box. That was pretty cool. We had a good conversation talking about like MVP voting and, his process for how that goes. And we sat there and watched the game, and, Cole, when he's throwing, 97, 98, we both kind of look at each other like, this is pretty good. When Adam Frazier hit the home run to go up, we both said wow at the exact same time and looked at each other. It was just fun interaction. But Jeff is an incredibly kind person, and everything that so that's how, as funny as he is on Twitter, he is that in person. He's so kind and genuine and loves the big game of baseball and is a great ambassador for the game. So two really fun people that you get to meet and interact with, and it's why I'm so grateful that I have this position that I do. That I get to go and have these experiences and share them with you guys. And I'm so grateful for that. And none of this would be possible without you guys listening as well. So thank you for that. Because I do think that does play a large part in this, the fact that people actually listen to and care about the things I say about baseball. Moving on to Sunday. We don't have to talk about the offense. That is poor performance. Luis Castillo pitched well, but so at some point you kind of tip your cap, and I didn't think it was a rough offensive performance. But what I do take away from this is another really impressive start by Stephen Kolek. And what was kind of wild was the swing and miss was a huge part, or like the strikeouts were a big part of this. He had 8 strikeouts in 6 2/3. He nearly gets through 7, and the only reason he doesn't get through 7 is because Michael Massey's heel was on the grass, which then I had forgotten the rule that you have to have both feet on the dirt. The Mariners caught it, and it ends up being a defensive shift violation, which is an error, and the batter gets on. When it was a ground out, would have given him 2 outs and gotten out of the inning. Weird rule. As far as I saw from Mariners PR, I think Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times said that's the first defensive shift violation that has been called since they changed the rule to it's an automatic base for the batter. And it's like getting hit by a pitch. There's no plate appearance. It's just a reach on error, but it doesn't count against batting average or anything like that. So oddity, tipped cap to the Seattle for seeing that, because I have never seen that before, nor have I thought to look for it. So that's why they're in the major leagues, and that's why their replay assist guy was able to do it. So shout out there. He would have gotten through 7 if that didn't happen. And obviously, and unfortunately, that runner did lead to the second run coming across. But Stephen Kolek was incredibly impressive today, I thought. He just knows what he's doing on the mound. And I know that sounds dumb on its face, but he has confidence to throw all of his pitches. He lives around the strike zone. The walks have come down for him significantly since coming over to Kansas City. He's throwing his 4-seam. It was a heavy changeup game. And man, he threw a right-on-right changeup to Eugenio Suarez today that was nasty. That thing's got some sharp north-south depth to it. The 4-seamer's got a little more life to it now that he's been throwing it a little bit more. It's not a crazy vert pitch, but it's got some life against lefties, and he's able to throw that at the top of the zone to kind of neutralize some of that because he was such a heavy sinker guy. When you throw your sinker, that's fine, but when you face a lot of lefties like he does because there was a drastic split between righty-lefty for him, it's kind of like Brady Singer, who has had problems with lefties in the past. That you throw that sinker, but if you don't locate it, then that ball just runs right into barrels. And so he's been throwing his 4-seam more to lefties, which has then made his sinker more effective when he uses it because it's a variant off of it. And he's working his way into the argument for a rotation spot next year. When I looked at him maybe more as a reliever, and he still might be, but his ability to work deep into games, which he's done every time that he's gone into a game. He's gone into the 6th inning in every start so far for the Royals, and I think this is his 4th start. He's going to be in that conversation. The Royals have 6 or 7 guys for all those spots. So, I mean, it's really impressive, man. What Brian Sweeney and Zach Bove have done for all these pitchers is pretty unbelievable. Cole, Noah, Bubic, Lugo, Berger, Cole, 6-man rotation. I feel like a 6-man rotation is like a last resort. I don't think you can go into a season with that. That extra day of rest sometimes, because pitchers are such type A routine-oriented creatures. I don't know if that would work. I think if you get to a point where your guys are fatigued and it's like, hey, we got to do this, and that's fine. I think there's going to be some really interesting conversations about potentially trading one of those guys. And I think it's the name in the middle there, Chris Bubic. That might be the really interesting conversation to have. And I'm going to talk a little more about that and expand on that a little bit more as we get into the offseason, like one of those offseason primer sort of episodes after the season. But I think if you give me a rotation of Ragans, probably Waka, Lugo, Cameron, Berger, I mean, that's really good. And then you still have Kolek there. It's going to be really interesting how they handle it, because they do legitimately have 6-7 guys. And you still got to add Luinder Avila, who they put in the bullpen because he was a starter and then he got hurt. And then as he was ramping back up, the opportunity presented itself for him to come to the big league. So they just put him in the bullpen because he hasn't stretched himself back out to be a starter yet. They still view him as that. So there's another name to throw in there. I think he's a reliever, but I think they're going to give him the opportunity to start and see if he can handle it, and then move him to the bullpen if they feel like they need to. So there's 7 names. And really it's your 4 of Ragans, Cameron, Lugo, Waka. Those guys are locked. Those guys are, so it's really 3 guys for 1 spot, maybe 4. If they go and sign a veteran, cheap, veteran 1-year deal, kind of like they did with Lorenzen, somewhere in that range, then you have 1 for 4. And then you have a very good problem, but also stick all those guys in the bullpen, they become AAA, depth. How do you view those guys? But I think Kolek and Berger have been too good to send back to AAA. But they might end up being in AAA depending on the situation. And Ryan Berger is right now on the shelf with right elbow strain that he felt in the bullpen yesterday. That's why, because the original plan was for Lorenzen to piggyback Ragans, throw 3 or 4 innings, because this was the day that the slated Lorenzen start day, but they threw Cole in. And so he goes there. But because of that, they had to shift. Lorenzen was already ready to go, so he threw 1 inning, and now he's going to start on Friday. So it sucks because Ryan Bergert has been great since coming over to Kansas City. I know he got roughed up in that start in Cleveland, but he's been really good otherwise. He got kind of roughed up in Philly too. But see, trade Bubic, I get it. I think trading Angel Zerpa would be foolish. I think he's way better than people give credit for, and this team needs left-handed relievers, like badly. So I understand the concept of, trade your relievers, but trade your relievers if you're bad. But keep your relievers when you can. And how many 25-year-old left-handed relievers that are 98 are there? There's not many. And again, I think Angel Zerpa is much better than people give credit for. And in a proper role, he is a valuable asset in the bullpen. I just don't know where the other lefty is going to come in unless they go and sign one. I think that's going to be another interesting conversation is how they handle the bullpen next year. Because I think there's more guys that are going to be in it than you think right now. Because I have at least 4 names in Sharpie, and probably there might be 5. And at that point, you got 3 guys there's probably like 8 dudes for 3 spots, probably just off the top of my head. So that's going to be, I do think the conversation of trading Chris Bubic this offseason is going to be probably the number one most fascinating. Let's see, let me check the chat here if there are any other questions here. I don't necessarily like if you guys have any other questions, please pop them in the chat. If for anybody watching, thank you. Offseason move, sign another bat and VP. Yeah, like they are going to need another bat. I'm just curious where it comes from because I don't know if they're going to be able to like sign the big fish because they really need a middle of the order guy. But are you going to be able to pay up for that? I don't think so. So this might be where you sign a Mike Yastrzemski as just a safe floor leadoff hitter, right? You'll need to find the other side of the platoon. It's obviously not Randall Grichuk. That mutual option is getting turned down fast because he has not been good whatsoever. That's going to be a huge part of it. But I do think a trade is certainly in the works. And because of Carter's emergence, it makes the Blake Mitchell conversation very interesting. He's obviously your top prospect in your system. The ceiling is incredibly high. He has not been awesome he's been fine. Let me pull up the numbers really quick because I know that he had the hamate injury, which I talked about in the spring. It kind of could make for a lost season that can zap power, and which is kind of concerning. And I was unfortunately correct in that. He finished his high A season. He only played 49 games in affiliated ball this year. /207, 372, 296. I mean, it zapped his power almost entirely. A 103 weighted runs created plus. Now he's still walking 21%, which is incredible. He's striking out almost a third of the time. At high A, I know he's 20. That is almost untenable non-prospect level bad. And I'm not saying he's a non-prospect, but that's the type of thing that makes you drop precipitously. Now, if he's able to come back from the hamate thing and he's able to turn it around and be closer to the dude he was in low A last year, where with a 135 weighted runs created plus and 18 homers, sure. But he also was striking out almost 31% then. And he's always going to strike out. But I wonder if he's going to strike out so much, it completely plummets his ability to be a viable big leaguer. It's because Mike Zunino he kind of reminds me of that right now. Like Zunino struck out a ton, but he was really good defensively. If Blake is able to be a plus defender, that changes the math. Kind of remains to be seen still on some of that stuff. But I do wonder if you try and sell a team on big-time power, catcher, he's young, there's a ton of projectability. If he's able to cut down on some of the swing and miss, maybe there's something there. Because we have Carter. and we have Carter for 6 more years and maybe longer. And you still have Ramon Ramirez in your system as well that they think could catch. So there are conversations to be had, certainly. I think that's going to do it for tonight. As I'm running out of things I could possibly talk about, I do appreciate the couple of people that were in here tonight. I know it's as the season winds down, I know everyone is going to the Chiefs stuff, and I totally understand that. Thank you for sticking with me as the team is basically out of it here. They got a series against the Blue Jays coming up, and that's another top team in the league. I'm curious how they end up handling business here if they're able to, and because they kind of have a fun position now where they can also play some spoiler and give teams some hell coming out. Because I follow a lot of Mariners accounts, and they were ready to get the hell out of Kansas City because they feel like the Mariners are cursed whenever they come to Kansas City for whatever it is. Always, the Mariners and Royals always play weird games in Kansas City. It's never in Seattle. It's always in Kansas City. There's one game in the series that is just bonkers. All right, so for Friday, it is going to be, as I mentioned, Michael Lorenzen is going to throw, and then it's going to be Max Scherzer on the mound for the Blue Jays. With Max Scherzer in a Blue Jays uniform looks odd. Like, same with Verlander and the Giants uni. Like, it doesn't look right. But credit to him for cashing a check and pitching for as long as they have into their 40s. 6:10 first pitch on Saturday. Familiar foe on the mound for the Blue Jays and Shane Bieber, who's pitched pretty darn well since going over to Toronto, and then Noah Cameron on the mound for Kansas City. And then on Sunday, last home game of the year, 1:10 first pitch, Michael Wacha versus Trey Yesevich, who's a rookie that just came up. He had a great first outing, 9 strikeouts, only gave up 1 run in that outing. I mean, the kid I think he was a rookie out of East Carolina. He was a first-round pick a couple years ago. Really impressive talent. So that's going to be, a fun game to watch on Sunday. I will be there for that game, so I'll get some sights and sounds from the ballpark then. So we will talk on, well, probably not going to be Sunday night because the Chiefs play. So I would imagine it's going to be an off day on Monday, so probably Monday night, 8:30 Central normal time. But we'll be live then instead of Sunday night so that you guys can all focus on the Chiefs game. Friday's game is on Apple TV, according to Curtis, who is always in the chat with those things because I never pay attention, and it certainly is. So I don't have Apple TV, so I'm going to be listening to the great stylings of Denny Matthews and Steve Stewart and Jake Eisenberg, I believe, on Friday night as that is going on. So toast game 2, we'll go to Cole Ragans for that first inning, dominant first inning, and we'll go to Stephen Kolek as well and Carter Jensen, first 2 big league homers. So there we go. We got 1 for each game. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, listening on all platforms. We will talk on Monday night, 8:30 Central, live on YouTube. So be sure to come through, check that out, and we'll have some fun. And we'll, hopefully it'll probably be a little more laid back because, season is where it's at. But thank you guys. Had a lot of fun doing this. We're going to continue to have some fun. We'll talk soon.